The Washington Capitals have been looking for a goalie, and now they found one who has won a Stanley Cup. Gil Martin of Locked On NHL here with Dan Holmi of Locked On Capitals as we talk about all the latest free agent news and moves. And Dan, Darcy Kuemper, now a member of the Washington Capitals. Your initial thoughts on this 5-year deal?
Hey, it doesn't get any better than this. We got Stanley Cup winning goalie Darcy Kuemper. I knew it was a bit of a long shot, but they ultimately were able to do it. And this is great news for the Washington Capitals, as we talked about on Locked On NHL, as they struggled with consistency in net. So hopefully that can be addressed with Darcy Kuemper. But official, Caps have signed goaltender Darcy Kuemper to a 5-year, $26.25 million deal. So things are looking good for the Washington Capitals.
And how many games roughly do you think he'll play? I mean, is he going to get 50, 55, 60 or more? I mean, what role do you see him taking on this team?
I see him doing a majority of the games. How many ever that breaks down to be, I guess that remains to be seen. But being that the Washington Capitals cut ties with both their netminders, Vanecek and Samsonov, it leaves them in an interesting position on who the number 2 is. So I guess I could give you a more accurate answer depending on who the Washington Capitals pick up as a number 2. Ultimately, it is my feeling that the Capitals will go with who they have in the AHL Hershey Bears affiliate there. I think they'll probably go with a Zach Fucale, a Hunter Shepard, or possibly Phoenix Copley, who's doesn't have a contract right now. But if they're looking for someone on the cheap, I think they could probably get like a Phoenix Copley to a cheap deal if they had to.
How much of the defensive woes that the Capitals had and the goaltender problems or issues was due to the goaltending play itself, and how much of it was due to the way the team played in front of those goalies?
I mean, I would say it was a mixed bag. You know, we like to talk about oftentimes at the Washington Capitals, and on my show I do as well, another first-round exit. But we can't put all of it squarely on the netminder's shoulders. I think that ultimately Ilya Samsonov kept the Capitals in the games. It doesn't help when you have the defense folding in front of your netminder or TJ Oshie coughing up the puck, leading to a scoring opportunity. I do definitely think, though, that the Washington Capitals will play with more confidence. I think they'll play with more swagger, because you see this all season where there's a team that's struggling out on the ice, and then in the middle of the game, they do a goalie change, and guess what? Everything changes. So I think that confidence, it kind of stems out from the net-minding position. If you know someone's got your back in net, I think that your team will do that much better. If you want to look back to the 2018 Washington Capitals when they had Braden Holtby in net, that team exuded confidence. So I think that having Darcy Kuemper on this team is really definitely going to help.
Dan, how much cap space do the Washington Capitals have left, and what are their priorities going forward?
I don't have the exact figure. They don't have a lot of room left under the cap. So they do have some of that LTIR money from Nick Backstrom being out. I think that ultimately, if they're going to get another big piece, they're going to have to move another big piece out. But I mean, that's just that's what you have to do playing in professional sports. You got to give up someone big to get someone big. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see some movement here later today.
And what position do you think they're targeting the most?
Well, ultimately what they need to do is they need to address the Nick Backstrom situation. As we all know, he had that hip resurfacing procedure done, and the outlook on that is not that great. Most of the time, those players don't ever come back. That's kind of sad news for Capitals fans. But if they could pick up a big name second-line center to fill in for Nick Backstrom, that would be huge. Also, maybe a Band-Aid player for Tom Wilson, who will not be back until around Christmas time. So, I mean, if I'm going to prioritize, I would say Nick Backstrom as the center, Tom Wilson as the right wing, and then perhaps some depth defensemen as well.
All right, so lots to look forward to. Dan, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find your podcast and where they could find you on social media?
All right, you can find my podcast wherever you find your podcasts. Just look up the Locked On Capitals podcast. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps.
All right, Dan Holmi, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.